Namato Ratanatayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Zim, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. And good evening, everyone. As usual, we are here at this time to do the evening chanting and meditation. So meditation is about knowing ourselves, understanding ourselves, knowing our own mind and our body, and understanding the nature of this mind and our body. In general, we are always channeling outside and thinking about others, spending a lot of time trying to understand about the world, about other people's life, and so on. And quite often, majority of the people will be suffered by those worldly proliferation. Thinking about is trying to make sense of it, and also try to make sense of other people, try to know them, try to understand them, and yet it is very difficult. So practice of a meditation helps us to understand these, starting from understanding ourselves. There was a story at the time of the Buddha. Once the Buddha enlightened at the age of 35 and went on teaching his findings for the good and the happiness of the gods and the humans. And it happened that on one occasion, one man who was very fond of Buddha's appearance, because the Buddha was so serene and calm and collected, and it's pleasing to see his appearance. It's like when we see someone who is so handsome or beautiful and perfect, all his senses or her senses, and we feel so drawn to it. It's like a feeling of a connection and developing faith in it, in that person. In similar way, this person was so attached to the Buddha's appearance, and with that, he became a monk, hoping that once he became a monk, he would have an opportunity to be close to the Buddha. And he followed like a shadow. Wherever Buddha goes, he was just going with the Buddha and trying to gaze and looking at the beauty of the Buddha. And it came the occasion that the Buddha realized that it's getting too much, and now his time has come to be enlightened. So then the Buddha first told him that rather than spending time looking at his appearance and not practicing any dhammas towards the liberation, he should leave the Buddha. When the Buddha told him to leave the Buddha, he felt very sad that the Buddha, the master whom he was so fond of, now he discarded me. And with that thought, he wanted to suicide, thinking that since the person that I really like and to be, if he is discarding me, then there is no point in me being alive. So he tried to suicide. The moment when he tried to suicide, the Buddha realizing his mental state, and that's the turning point. Then a Buddha appeared in front of him and said that, "Come, O Kali, come." Seeing the maturity of his mind, the Buddha gave him teachings, saying that, know yourself, understanding yourself. The Buddha said that one who knows the Dhamma knows the Buddha. And that basically means one who knows the Dhamma means knowing oneself, knowing the world and knowing other people, other beings. And that can be done only we understood ourselves properly. In general, we spend very little time understanding ourselves or knowing ourselves, always thinking about other people, worrying about other people, concern about other people, and very little time we spend to ourselves and understanding ourselves. So Buddha's teachings is about knowing ourselves, and which is the first priority and the first job that we should be developing to understand ourselves. And how do we know ourselves? And this is a huge question to understand. It's not about the name that is given to us. It's not that the ethnicity that we are born to or a nationality that we are in. Questioning deeply ourselves, that who am I? And knowing this ourselves. And this knowing can be fully understood through the practice of a meditation. And knowing ourselves can be done through the practice. Once we know, we will be able to understand about the world. And knowing in general concept about the world, again, it's easy. We can follow the instructions and read the papers on this world, about the world. Like before, the world was believed to be flat, and then later on believed it's round. And there are still plenty of people, those who still think that this is not a goal, this is not a round. Such as like there are certain people, they even don't know how to create email in such a modern world time nowadays. They even know how to function the telephones. And the reason behind that these are so poor that they couldn't afford, and they don't have any understanding what email is about. And this can be developed by reading, by studying, by listening. And that understanding is not the true understanding yet, because understanding about the world is only the nature of the Buddha, not for us. The Buddha said that thousands of millions of miles you walk and still you will not be able to comprehend the world system. Same with the other people. Knowing other people also are difficult. We can take an example of our own experiences, that we think we know that person and we become so close to that person, become a good friend, or even become a husband and a wife. Thinking that I know that person, and then each other have the compromising state that they know each other. And eventually, after a couple of years, maybe 30 years or 40 years later, realize that that is not, or he is not a person, or she is not my type. And beginning to see the faults and eventually breaking up. It's like, finally I realize who the real person you are. And yet that is not the real person that you have understood. A question comes, they themselves, again, do not know. They don't know themselves too. And how on earth that we will be able to understand them, know them? Doesn't matter how many years you are living together, still very difficult to understand. A possibility that we can live together because we compromise and live with some form of ethical practice or values or rules. And under those rules we can live together, but doesn't mean that we understand one another. Each individual would have their own way of thinking, their own way of planning, their own way of wishes and aims and objectives. Some would think about their own personal benefit, others would think about the benefit of others and giving a service, and some would think of their progress and the service and so on, based on their paramitas, their experience and their aims and objectives. So it is not easy. So the best way we can spend time on trying to understand is ourselves, who we really are. Knowing ourselves is the key to understand everyone. We do not understand others, but we can feel from their behaviors, their activities, and we can see that whether to be associated with them or not. Whereas for ourselves, we have no choice. Doesn't matter how bad behavior we have no choice. We have to be with it. So learning to know, learning to understand ourselves is the key for the real happiness. And that is the essence of the practice of a meditation. Knowing ourselves. And how do we know ourselves? Where to start? And that starts from here and now. The moment here and now is the beginning of an understanding. So first we have to accept that I am present here. I am present here. My body exists here. And my mind is aware of this existence of the body. And we don't have any control over this body. We can't control this body. We can't control this body not to get old, not to get sick, and not to die. This is a natural body. It will grow as its own way and will fade away. We have no control over it at all. And our mind again, always flickering, always changing, always wanting to know, always wanting to experience things, non-stop. 24/7 days, we are also feeding this mind whenever it needs or whenever it requests. We are paying attention to and giving full authority. The practice of a meditation is to see this uncertain mind and understanding this uncertain mind, knowing about it, and gradually taming this mind towards the wholesome activities. You may notice yourself most of the time, mind likes to go towards the negativities, creating negativities, dealing with the negativities, wanting to be in negativities, and another mind is saying that I want to be free from it, and yet we cannot give away these negativities. It's like having a bath with a dirty water, thinking that I will be cleaned. So practice of the meditation is to recognize our behavior, our character, and our activity that we are performing. If anything that is unwholesome, take it out, remove it, and developing a wholesome activities, wholesome speech, wholesome action, and wholesome thoughts, which will be conducive to train this mind. And with that, we become a master of this mind. And with that, we will be very alert and awake to every moment. Everything that we do, everything that we say, everything that we perform. The action that we take becomes kind actions. There will be a kindful actions. Even the walking, you will be kindly walking, concerned about other people, concerned about other beings. Try not to disturb them in any means, any ways. So you become mindful of your own walking. And that's how you develop your awareness of a walking meditation. And as you're walking, you will be walking like a majestic walk, as a cat walk. Like a cat is hunting, you will be walking in such a way that will not disturb others. Similarly, every speech that you are speaking, you will be speaking with a kindfulness, full of kind and compassion, with metta, thinking that the word that you are saying would not affect others, upset others, and you will be speaking for their comfort, their well-being. And even that thinking, there's always compassionate thought going on, kind thought going on, even though they fail to do things, or even though they harm you. There's always a sense of forgiveness there, always a sense of encouraging them to do good things again and again. Often you may be disappointed by the expectations, and yet you generate kindness and compassion to them, always checking all the actions. And that's how you will be developing your awareness and mindfulness in your daily life, and as well as understanding your mental state. And with that, life becomes much easier, comfortable, no heavier, and with that you will be able to see that you are not the one, but a part of the system, the universe, and understanding the reality that the body is not mine, this mind is also not mine. Always conditioned, aroused, conditioned remains, and eventually when the condition fades, it fades too. And so this is how we understand it. In order to understand this, we have to start from the beginning. Very small bit of things, empirical objects like a breath is coming in and going out. As the body presence here, so aware of your body sitting here and now. And then as you're paying attention to the body, understanding that there is a breath coming in and going out, and some form of movements are taking place. And settling down, grounding yourself on those movements within your body, releasing all the tensions and discomforts, giving away all the duties and responsibilities, and just relax and be here and now. And the rest of the other phenomena will reveals to yourself and fully understanding the nature of connectivity and understanding that when the connection or depending things or conditions dissolves, things dissolves. So with this in mind, continue practicing, sitting comfortably, bringing your mind to the moment here and now, paying attention to the breath incoming, outgoing, arising, falling, settling down, grounding yourself in whatever other objects arises, whether the sound, the pain, the itchiness, or the thoughts, perceiving them and noting them as they truly are, rather than as we want it to be. Suppose hearing the sound, and then hearing, rather than listening the sound. There must be a discomfort in your body. Try to notice those discomforts and see what happens if you don't move. And perceiving it's like a pain, or wanting to move. There's an itchiness, and see what happens when you are paying attention to it. At least for 3 times before you move, if you really need it. Stop, watch, and make a note that I want to move my hands, or there is itchiness, or there is a pain. Suppose there is a pain, then noting it, pain, before moving it, and see what happens. And if you really need it to move, okay, I want to move, and then slowly moving it, rather than unconsciously moving it at all the time. So you're moving it with consciousness, consciously aware and noting it, and then knowing your desire to move it, and if you need it, then slowly moving it. So like that, and back to the primary object, the rise and fall, breathing in, breathing out, rising, falling. So like this, continue practicing until you hear